just tuning in, wow, you miss a lot, but we're doing our KUAM News Decision 2020 candidate interviews. We'll start the clock here for Minority Leader and Incumbent Senator Telo Taitague. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Sabrina.
I guess we'll just start right off the bat. And, our last candidate, Bunker, and I has brought up a point that is kind of become a recurring theme. It's the throw a bunch of stuff on the incumbents, right, and demonize the incumbents. Just as an incumbent and someone who's, had your share of terms in the Guam legislature, I guess how would you maybe not defend that, but how do you justify electing people back to office in your case? So I guess just, why should people vote for you, an incumbent, over someone who is new?
Well, I think the advantage that the people of Guam have, not so much us, the incumbents, but I think the advantage that the people of Guam have is to see our record, to see what we're doing, to test us out, to follow along, to follow along
whatever.
But is Frank still on? I can hear him.
We're going to mute him, so.
Okay. I see Frank. I'm from the South too, right? So from Minerahan, and I know who Frank
I almost
is,
want to bring him back on and let him debate, because we get like Telo versus Ray Taposnia part 2.
Later.
Okay, go ahead, Senator. We don't take your time.
Like I said, the advantage for the people of Guam that have is they can watch what we're doing and see our record and see if we're doing the job that they expected us to do.
Sorry, I had to just get a second to get over that. So, Senator, just on your end, what do you think were some of the accomplishments that you made in the last term that you're proud of?
Well, I never gave up, considering the atmosphere that I was, in the situation, being in the super minority, which is really difficult at times. But I was able to introduce 31 bills and pass 11 of them. So I accomplished that, and it's basically just not giving up. Some of the bills that I was really proud of that took me a while was to create the task force to build the new hospital. And if you remember, I introduced that bill on the onset as soon as it was bill number 5. Mm-hmm. And it created a task force to look at rebuilding the hospital. There are so many things that we need to do before that in order to, ensure the responsibility of making sure we can build one in the first place, how we're going to build it, where we're going to build it, how many rooms do we need now that we have another hospital. There's so many aspects into it, where we're going to get the bond funding, things like that. So right now I'm just kind of disappointed because this task force, the bill passed, and it still has not been implemented with the speaker or Gita to put this task force together. So I want to see this through. I'm not going to give up. One thing about me, I don't like not following through with things. I'm notorious for calling until it's done and until the project is finished. So there's a lot of projects that I've started and I want to complete.
Right, and it'd be interesting to see what happens with that public law, considering the fact that the Army Corps of Engineers concluded their report, their assessment, and we've heard from the administration that really the route they want to take is building a new hospital.
Yeah.
Right, all along, yeah. It was needed all along.
Yeah.
Senator, what do you think has been the key to your success? So as a minority, we've heard from other senators in the minority who their whole thing is that I can't get a bill passed. But you've managed to get 11 bills passed. So what do you think is the secret to that, I guess, relative success when you compare it to other people in your minority who, can't seem to get the legislature to give them the time of day?
Well, I'm lucky to get bills passed at the very beginning on the onset. So maybe it's because you needed to start at the beginning, But I think that the bills that I introduced, everything from educational bills to health bills to being fiscally responsible, public safety bills, that if you do introduce a bill, then you need something to back it up. For instance, the cameras for that I found $200,000. First, you need to do your due diligence and to look for funding. So if you're going to introduce legislation, then you need some funding to back it up. So for instance, the cameras, I found some funding by looking into an account that was never used, that was passed in the last legislature, which the retirement fund had no use for it at that time. I know that Joe St. Augustine also saw that money too lingering, so he took some of that piece of the pie. And I was able to get about $200,000 excuse me, $200,000 and appropriate that to the Guam Police Department to put up additional cameras. So I'm still waiting on that too. The money's there, and we're still waiting for GPD to get those cameras up and running. So I think it's the bills that I introduce. I just make sure that it's not only desperately needed, but it does have the funding source to back it up. The bill that was passed on the hospital that created the task force, I went to GITA to ask them to incorporate the possibility of getting grant money in their the SIDS that they went after, that they provide every year, and they were able to do that. They were able to incorporate the ability to place a new hospital in, and they kind of tied it with tourism, because when tourists come to Guam, they need a place that's safe, and one place that they would that lures them there is knowing that it's not only beautiful beaches, but if I should get into trouble, there's a great hospital, that I can go to as well. Yeah. So, bills like that introduce accountability, transparency, and it makes sense.
Senator, did
I'm not saying other bills don't make sense.
Right.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And that people can't get them through. But I think it just takes a lot of push and never giving up.
Senator, do you need to do your spray thing? Because I noticed you keep having that cough. So if you do, I'd give you a chance to do that. Are you good?
I'm okay. It's just I've had a kind of a runny nose, and it's just allergies popping up. That's
okay.
Today's
I'm just checking. Senator, if we could, I wanted to kind of discuss the tone, right? I mean, we have seen in this legislature, and you couldn't say catfight. You couldn't say catfight because the legislature or whatever, but God, the tone has been, and I understand it, I get it, you guys are passionate, but a lot of it has also been just pettiness, muting microphones, talking over people. Just give me your take on that, because the people, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because they see that and they're like, God, I want our leaders to work together, but at the same time, you guys are going to disagree if just fundamentally you're opposed on the things that you're trying to do. So if you could just speak to the tone and the decorum and the lack of it that we've seen in this legislature.
Well, I'm not one to turn a blind eye. If something is not going right, or there's some unfairness, that's probably my downfall. I tend to try and help the one that's, they say those individuals who are afraid to speak up are not be able to back themselves up. What is it? The underdog. And sometimes people reach out to me to fight their fights, and I've got to learn to wait. You need to first fight your own fight, and then I'll be happy to stand beside you and support you and provide any kind of help that you need to move forward. But sometimes in the legislature, you get individuals who just don't have that respect or decorum. And if you continue to allow that person to act that way and not say anything, they're going to continue to do it. It's like the bully in the playground. Right. They sand in your face every single day. You do nothing about it. They will continue to kick the sand in your face until you stand up to them and say something. And you, Sabrina and Chris, you know me, I stand up for where I think it's right. I'm not just doing it to be a mean or anything like that. I wish I didn't have to. But sometimes you can't turn a blind eye. You need to speak up and say something about it. And I think the people of Guam expect you to do that. Everybody had the opportunity during COVID to watch session and to see what goes on there. And I was really happy about that, because sometimes we just get those who are speaking up for and advocating for those who are being mistreated, or there's being some kind of favoritism in there. They see it themselves. And
Right.
I'm really glad that they had the opportunity to watch during COVID.
I mean, that was crazy, the amount of people who tuned in to watch that session, and I really thought that everyone was going to be on their total best behavior, but that wasn't even the case. I was just like, and no, see, these are you guys as senators. See, look at you senators.
Well, I mean, there definitely needs communication, whether it's to argue a point or whether not to argue a point. But communication is key. And unfortunately, when you have that communication, there's people who tend to disagree with you and want to force it down your throat.
Right.
But there's also a way of doing it to try to show them that this way could be better, and these are the reasons why. So that's what we try to do in the legislature.
Right.
But sometimes it gets out of hand,
Right.
Not everybody's perfect.
Looking
We're
forward
definitely
to your next term, if elected, Senator, and we'll get this, and then we'll move to your closing remarks. If elected, what are some of the things that you plan on working on in the next Guam legislature?
Well, continue with that hospital. I've been advocating that from day one. I think our public health is so important, and so I'd like to continue on with the hospital and moving forward. Also, the used oil task force that has been implemented, things have been kind of put on hold. We had a whole, probably about 6 months now, or 4 months of not being able to move forward with some projects that are in the making or that has already started, but then COVID has stopped us. So there's a lot more that I'd like to finish doing. But most importantly, I think it's transparency and accountability, and continue to move that forward, not giving up on that and demanding for it. So economic growth. I have a fiber optic cable bill that's out there that has not been on the session floor. It's had a public hearing. That's very big. You're looking at fiber optic cables coming in through Guam. We are probably the second in the Pacific that has the most fiber optic cables, and there's an opportunity for us economy-wise, and I'd like to see those through. So there's quite a bit of bills. Like I said, I've introduced 31, and I'd like to see a lot. And only 11 is passed, so I'd like to see those other get through. And if they don't in this legislature, then I'm hoping that if by the blessings of the people that they elect me, then I will continue to push for those bills.
All right. Well, thank you, Senator. You got about a minute and a half just to wrap things up. Your final comments.
Well, first and foremost, I humbly ask the people of Guam for their vote of confidence in me. I've done a lot in this legislature, and I'd like to continue to do more. And that is, like I said earlier, to follow through with some of the bills that I've introduced and to move forward with those that were passed to make sure they see their end result, their goal. I'd like to thank you, Sabrina and Chris, for the opportunity, and Jason, who's out there too, for the opportunity to have us on the legislature to speak up, allow us to bring forth all the work that we've been doing. So I greatly appreciate that. But most of all, I think you're going to need somebody in there that is not afraid to ask the hard questions. Someone who I think it's moving toward, like I said again, accountability and transparency, but most especially to ensure that our government is run for the people, and I again humbly ask for your vote of confidence. And si Diyos masi.
Thank you, Senator.
Thanks, Senator.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Wash your thumbs. 9:31. If you're just watching now, it's K-Wave News' Decision 2020 candidate interviews. We're doing